Well, hello and greetings. I'm Dr. Tombley, and this is the next installation of the training for Gorski's model. You're watching this because we're wanting you to integrate this model into everything that you're doing, whether it's in group education, group therapy, RSA treatment, or individual counseling. Today's teaching is focusing on individual treatment and how individual treatment plays a role in the whole model. So our agenda for the session starts off with a little bit of a discussion regarding the value of consistency in treatment. And then we're going to talk about the development of daily activities and the value of using them in the app and the individual sub-counselor's role in developing that and promoting the app use. And then we'll talk about the Quickstart process for the first 4 individual sessions and how they're laid out. And then a little bit, some closing statements about some flexibility in the model so that you're not becoming too rigid, but you're actually maintaining kind of the spirit and the intent as well as the framework of the model. So a couple of words about consistency first. Consistency can first be thought of in the terms of how consistent are you in your approach, in your connection, and in your follow through. So how consistent are you when you make your appointments, when you make your contacts with people? Do you follow through when you say you're going to give them a resource? Are you going to be there when you say you're going to be there? Those types of things. Those are really consistency of professionalism and character. Can you provide your service and provide it with a sense of consistency? And remember that as you are consistent in how you provide your service, whether it's in how you present yourself or how you schedule, it sets the pattern for how they're going to respond to you. When what they can begin to expect from you is what they will begin to return to you. So you're much more likely to get consistent response back when you are consistent. So the consistency in your service provision is important. And those are primarily, I'm talking about character types of things. And they know what to expect out of you. If you're emotionally erratic, they're going to be likely to be emotionally erratic. So again, that's one role of consistency. Another is consistency of model. This first begins with language. Are you using common language? Anytime somebody comes into a subgroup, they develop a sense of language, and these words suddenly have lots of meaning folded into them. And so they can access with their peers and with themselves a whole chain of understanding or a whole chain of experiences by a simple phrase or a certain type of word. For example, in the recovery community, one day at a time, that phrase has all kinds of meanings attached to it. It means that we don't live in the past and we don't live in the future. It means that we don't make pledges about the future. We make pledges only about the now. It means that we worry about today's problems and we accept today's problems. It means that we don't change the things we can't change, but we do change the things that we can. It means that we make a commitment and our commitment is made for now. So there's all these ideas that get folded into that simple phrase, one day at a time. So it's not just slogans or phrases, but it's our whole language. When we say the word relapse, do we mean when someone reuses, or do we mean the whole 11-stage process that relapse happens? When we say the word recovery, what do we mean by that? Some people, or treatment. So all these things have specific nuances and specific meanings that become ways that they communicate about things that are going on in their life and their own experience. Anytime you go into a new group, whether it's a hobby group or a vocational group or an education group or a religious group, they have language that's specific to them, and you have to learn it. You as the individual counselor are the person that's helping them learn that language so that they can navigate the social structures and the principal structures that are within the group of recovery. And this is important because recovery isn't just 30 days. Recovery is a lifetime. So if they're going to become now part of this group called the recovery community that are learning to live fulfilling and healthy life without negative behaviors, and this is something that they're going to have to do for the rest of their life because they're putting their disease into remission, then it means that they need the language of that group. So find consistency in your language. So when we talk about stages of recovery, let's use stabilizations early, middle, late. Let's use phases of relapse. Let's use the word reuse when we talk about returning to a substance use instead of simply calling it relapse. Let's bring as much model consistency in what we're doing in our groups and in our individual therapies. The last thing is just the kind of a global consistency. We don't want to teach Gorski's model as kind of an add-on extra that's happening. Gorski's model and our understanding of relapse and of treatment of a chronic disease, it should invade everything that we do. It's going to shape how we organize. It's going to shape the priorities that we place. It's going to shape how we track progress. So it's going to invade everything. I want you to become so familiar with Gorski's model that when you're asked, well, what kind of treatment do? You can say we use the Gorski relapse model as our treatment modality. This is how we understand addiction, and this is how we understand people get free. All right. And this is how we understand addiction is something that lasts a lifetime treatment. And so all your understandings get wrapped up in this model. So you need to get real familiar with it. As a provider, that's important for you to be able to give an account or to know why you're doing what you're doing. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to be able to problem solve better. You're going to enjoy your job more. You're not going to be so discouraged when you find clients failing in their recovery or ditching their recovery, because you're going to be confident in what you're doing rather than confident in the changes that someone else has made. Remember, as a provider, you provide a service and the client has the option to accept or reject it. So I don't ever want you measuring the success of what you're doing simply by the client's response. It should be measured by the fidelity of the model that you are practicing. All right. So consistency is important. Number 2, daily activities. Daily activities in our model is our understanding what the personal program is, meaning what is someone going to do? What task, activities are they going to do daily and weekly that move them through their recovery? Gorski calls this the personal program. And we talked about 7 zones of a personal program. And we did the worksheet. That was the previous teaching session. It's important that you take those personal program ideas and move them into activities, and then those activities then move into the app and they get tracked. I wanted to show you a video by Ronnie Sells, and he is in recovery and part of the development team of our FCC app. And I think you can hear a little bit of what he thinks and how he feels and how he sees the validity of moving activities into some kind of tracking mechanism.
Hey guys, my name is Ronnie Sells. I'm a person in long-term recovery from co-occurring disorder, drug and alcohol addiction, and depression. I'm celebrating 6 years of continuous recovery this year and feel pretty fortunate to be able to do that. But maybe like many of you and millions of others, experienced multiple relapse over my 35-year drug addiction. And so I want to talk to you today a little bit about using a cell phone app in recovery and some of the things that I've done in my recovery to make this time around different than other times. In 2014, I decided to get into treatment, and I did a couple of things different. Number one, I asked myself, what's going to be different this time about my recovery in order that I sustain the change that I needed in behavior to maintain long-term sobriety. And the other thing is I made a promise to myself that I was going to follow the direction of some folks who knew a whole lot more about living in recovery than I did. So one of the things that I did to address that daily behavior change was I was using a Yahoo calendar, and yeah, Yahoo's still a thing. And I would put like 3 or 4 things that I needed to do every day for my recovery on my Yahoo calendar on my cell phone with reminders. Without the reminders, you know, my recovery and the things that I needed to do daily would sort of get on the back burner. I would forget, and that's kind of how, as you know, we start to slip and then get into relapse. So I made it really simple. The 3 things that I did every day in that first year of recovery was read the daily reflections of Alcoholics Anonymous before my feet hit the floor every morning, call my sponsor, do 90 meetings in 90 days, also reach out to someone else in recovery or in need every day. And then lastly was prayer and meditation. Over the last 6 years, those have changed a bit. And, you know, now it's simple, but I still, every single day, have to take those things, those 3 things in my recovery and put them first over everything else. Because without my sobriety, everything else that I love and that makes me happy and makes this life adventurous goes away. You know, as they say, we have what we have to look forward to, or jails, institutions, and death. Oh my. But using that Yahoo calendar, I was able to stick to the programming of those daily and weekly recovery activities. But also that first year recovery, I met a guy in treatment named Steve Moak Jr. And we met in the alumni program post-discharge of the treatment center that we attended in Arizona. And we both talked about the fact that we would like to get involved in the recovery industry and help people like us based on some experiences that we had in treatment, or maybe some things that were lacking in the recovery experience, at least in our individual recovery experience. So Steve went to work in the recovery organization and treatment center that we attended, and I moved from Arizona back to Southeast Missouri and became a classroom instructor in a local treatment organization. And very quickly, I moved into an associate counselor and then up to a facility manager position. In my 3rd year of working in treatment, Steve Moak Jr. had gone out and pulled some resources together, put together this really cool, robust app. And he sent me a kind of a promo video of it, and I took a look at it, and I'm like, wow, man, this is so cool. You know, because it's what I've been doing with the Yahoo calendar plus so much more. And so when he sent it to me, I took a look at it, and I wanted to immediately be involved with it. So I started using the app in my daily recovery. I've used it ever since, over the last 2.5 years. And it's really simple. You know, the cell phone, I never had a relapse over my 35 years of drug addiction. I never had a relapse that didn't involve a phone and calling a drug dealer, or maybe it started with a call or texting to a relationship that was a trigger for me. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, I'm slipping into old behavior and off and running back into my addiction. But having my recovery activities and being able to reach out to a live person, either a peer support specialist, a coach, or a sponsor that's on my cell phone and really convenient is really cool. I wish I would have had all the benefits of this app in my first year of recovery. It would have been the path of least resistance, because like we all know, the cell phone weighs 450 pounds in that first year of recovery. We're not going to pick up the phone and call someone unless it's absolutely necessary. And then all too often, sometimes we don't either. And we either end up in relapse or, you know, a lot of other negative consequences. But with the cell phone app, all I have to do is pick it up, and then, I go into the app, and it's password protected, so no one can get in there and see what I've been going on. And there are, I don't know if you can see this, but mood emojis, and then a list of those daily recovery activities that I was talking about earlier. And like, if I'm feeling overwhelmed or frustrated, I can just hit that emoji, and then it sends that to a recovery coach. I use this app every day, and I contact my sponsor through it. I also contact another partner that I have as a part of my support staff. And when I'm feeling any type of way and I really don't feel like picking up the phone and calling someone, especially in that first year, we spend so much time isolating from people and events, it's easy just to hit I'm frustrated, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then my support person can pick up the phone and call me. They can do a video conference with me, which, sometimes I'm not always willing to do that, but I will text back and forth. And then the other thing that's really cool about this, that I really like about this, is it has those daily and weekly recovery activities listed here. And when I participate in one of those, like meditate and pray and is one of the things that I do every day, sometimes all day long. I hit that whenever I do it, and it registers. And then the incentive is that I get kind of like a percentage report each day emailed to me that I can take a look at, and I say, oh, wow, I did 90% of my recovery activities today. It's been a good day, and I was able to stay sober again today. Some other cool features is it lists all my support folks and a crisis number. Really convenient. I open the app and I can reach out to any one of my support folks just via the app, or if it's off hours and I'm feeling depressed, I could call a crisis line if I needed to speak to someone. There's a resources tab that has a lot of stuff listed that are parallel to supporting my recovery. I don't know if you can see that. I probably can't see it, but it has a 12-step meeting locator. So if I need to find an AA meeting or an NA meeting, I can click on through the app, put in my zip code, and it finds it. It has like guided meditations. It has some other things where, you can access websites and resources that reinforce my daily recovery. And, if I'm feeling some type of resistance from life out there, feeling negative or frustrated, I can go here and do a guided meditation, maybe watch a YouTube on something really positive, and it pulls me out of the funk so that, I can get my focus back on what I need to be focused on. And that's it really. I knew that leaving treatment was probably the toughest day of my recovery, because it's easy to be in residential treatment or maybe even IOP, intensive outpatient, and live day to day in recovery. But as soon as we start to navigate the world on our own and we start feeling the resistance, that's when, we're subject and at risk for relapse. And I just encourage you to keep an open mind and use the app as your tool. One of the things that I've done with my cell phone is purge old negative information off of it, like old drug dealer telephone numbers, maybe some ex-relationships that are triggers for me. I try to get those off of there, and then they're replaced with those positive things that the app brings to me. That was developed by a really smart guy who's celebrating 6 years in recovery himself, Steve Moak Jr., as I mentioned earlier. And so I'm excited that you get to be able to experience what I have, and hopefully it'll add to your success as well. Again, my name is Ronnie Sells. I want to offer you my cell phone number. It's area code 480-334-1949. That's 480-334-1949. Please feel free to text me or reach out anytime if you're struggling. I'm happy to take a call. I do believe that my purpose on this planet in my recovery is to help other people, and I hope you'll soon realize that too. Thanks for your time, and I'm humbled by you giving me your attention and let me talk a little bit about my recovery today. Take care.
All right, there you had some excellent information and some encouraging words about making that progress and moving into the app. So you actually can utilize that. In fact, I would encourage you to do that. That video itself, show it to your people as you're getting ready to move them in to the app itself. Okay. All right. So let's move and talk about the process of individual counseling, the Quickstart. So what I've done is I just went through and I said, what would the first 4 sessions of individual treatment look like? And what would be kind of the focuses of each of those first 4 sessions? And it's true, these sessions are going to be the same for every client. It's going to be your latter sessions that are going to keep taking a different mold and be more and more individualized. But the first ones are going to be the same because you're on-ramping these clients into recovery and into this model of treatment. So what are you going to do each one? So in session number 1, you're going to build rapport. You're going to review their intake information, their SNAP. You're going to review their interpretive summary, possibly any kinds of other screenings that they did. You're going to look at kind of what it is that they wanted to work on, what's the referral source, what's the problem, their ASI. You're looking at their intake information and asking any kind of follow-up questions or connecting the dots, so to speak, during that time. You're really getting to know them and their situation. Then you're going to do exercises 1 through 4. These are in a handbook that will be given to the clients prior to them getting to the session. So they could actually have already filled out exercise 1, and you kind of go over it with them, or they could fill it out right there. And you go through those exercises. In those exercises, they identify something that's pushing them, a major problem that's pushing them into treatment, and a major problem they have with their substance use. And it moves them closer to a decision. So this exercise is intended to move them finally to the abstinence contract. And that actually comes in session 2, but you're making some progress. You can actually leave them with the abstinence contract at the end of session 1 to look over it and consider, are they willing to make this commitment? And they can sign it during the week or between sessions and bring it back to you to session number 2. You also, in the first session, would make any referrals. Are they going to do co-occurring? Do they need to see the care coordinator for some specific items? Do they need to see the nurse? Those type of things. Any referrals that you need to make. And lastly, you're going to set up their group schedules. So in that first session, you're giving them a card that says, okay, now here's your new schedule. So that card has it on there exactly when they're supposed to be where, so they know what groups are supposed to be attending. That's the end of session 1. Session 2, you're going to, between session 1 and 2, you will have drawn up the treatment plan and avatar. So you're going to review their treatment plan with them, and you're going to get a digital signature. So this sometimes treatment plan review can take almost an entire hour. What I'm hearing is many people are scheduling extra time for session number 2. It's an hour and a half to a 2-hour counseling session because you're reviewing this treatment plan, answering questions about what treatment's going to look like, talking about the abstinence contract. Then you're going to do, in their Quickstart handbook, you're going to do exercise 2, which is about the relapse intervention plan. This is when you say, what are you going to do if you reuse? If you start displaying behaviors to your significant others, if you test positive on a UA. So this relapse intervention plan is about how they're going to handle their immediate triggers. It's the first line of attack, and how they're going to intervene when they're in that relapse process. The answers to that relapse intervention plan become your safety plan and avatar. So after the session, you're going to, or it could be during the session, you transfer that into the safety plan, print it out, and give it to the client. The last thing you do in session 2 is you introduce the FCC app, and you make sure they get it on. So you let them get their phone on, you send them the link, they log on, and you start daily mood checks from that point on. All right. It's also good practice here that you start texting them daily during that first week so that they're starting to get into a pattern that this is really a way that works. This is a consistent way that they're going to be able to engage their whole recovery process. You may be able to show them Ron's video in session 2, but it may not be. It may be that you actually show Ron's video in one of the latter sessions. So session number 3, you're going to do in their Quickstart handbook exercise 3, which is about the 5 rules of recovery. And those 5 rules will be drilled into them. Change your life, do good self-care, relax, don't bend the rules. You're going to go over these, and there's a whole worksheet that is in exercise 3 for you guys to review and discuss and help get some feedback on how they understand what those rules of recovery are. Then there's an external and an internal triggers worksheet that you work with them to help identify what's going on outside that causes them to want to use, and what's going on inside that causes them want to use. The last thing is you give them a business card that is the rule card. Here's our 5 rules. On the back of that are the 11 phases of relapse. Ask them to keep it with them at all times because they're going to use that as a checklist later on. Then you have session 4. During session 4, you're going to do the Rapid. The Rapid is a recovery and relapse prevention inventory diagnostic. And so they answer a series of questions. And this is to score them about their readiness to engage in recovery, but it also sparks their thinking as they move to exercise 4, which is doing the worksheet for developing a personal program. So you do the worksheet with them. You do your brainstorming, everything that we learned in the last training. And then we take those final activities and we add them to the FCC app. And you can do it right there with them. You can do it after they left, but you want to immediately, the very next day, or better yet, the day of that 4th session, they're already starting to track what's going on. And you're engaging them in that app, so it becomes a habit for them. So those are the quick start sessions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, you can do those 1 week at a time. You can do those 2 a week. You can do them as fast as you really want to do them, or have the availability to do them. But this is how you get them started and get them moving in treatment. Now, notice this. If someone's in 30 days of inpatient treatment, some of the tracking, you're not going to be able to use the app. All right? You're going to have to track it on paper because they don't have access to their phones when they're in a residential treatment. But they do have access to all these types of exercises that they can track. So you use the residential handbook kind of as the tracking element. And you can see them, the minimum is once a week, but don't hesitate to see them twice a week and get them to a good start, especially when they finally hit that, they get past that detoxification and they're ready to start engaging and they're a little more open. Take advantage of it and try to fit them an extra individual session in. All right, so the last thing I want to just mention to you is about flexibility. It's important that you use the model. You use the framework of the model. You use the language of the model. You use the content of the model. But the model itself is designed to be personalized. It's designed that whatever shows up as their activities are their activities. They're by their choice and they work for them. They may not work for other people, but they work for them. So that's where your flexibility shows up. Not in whether or not you're doing quick start session 1, 2, 3, 4, or whether you're teaching the 11 steps of relapse and you decide you only want to teach 7. Don't take flexibility with that stuff. That's called design liberty. Don't take design liberty with Gorski's model and with FCC Turning Leaf's model. Don't use your flexibility to change our approach to treatment or to change a definition. Use your flexibility in activities that are meaningful and purposeful, that transform and empower the client to live in recovery. All right, go and do a great job.